My wife Lauren was careful. She used cash only, no receipts, changed passwords weekly like she worked for the CIA instead of marketing boutique hotels. But she forgot our golden retriever Max wore a GPS collar, and she took him everywhere, including room 714. I'm Soren Valden, 35, systems architect for a mid-sized tech company in Houston. Not the kind of guy who usually finds himself tracking his wife through a dog collar app, but life has a twisted sense of humor. 3 months ago, I installed the GPS tracker after Max kept escaping our backyard. Best $100 I ever spent, though not for the reasons I expected. The first time I noticed the pattern, I was sitting in my home office, debugging code for a client's server migration. My phone buzzed with the familiar ping from the pet tracker app. Max's little blue dot had stopped moving again. 7th floor of the Grandview Hotel downtown. Same spot he'd been Tuesday night when Lauren said she was working late on the Morrison account. Probably just a glitch, I muttered, closing the app. GPS can be wonky in tall buildings, but the dot kept returning to that exact location. Every Thursday night, sometimes Tuesdays. Always when Lauren claimed to be burning the midnight oil at her office across town. Lauren walked into my office that evening, Max trotting beside her, his golden fur still damp from what she called her stress relief walks. She kissed my forehead, her perfume carrying a faint hotel soap scent I couldn't quite place. "How was the Morrison presentation?" I asked, watching her face. "Exhausting. 3 hours of client revisions." She didn't blink. "I'm grabbing a shower." I opened the app again. Max's location history showed a 4-hour stay at the Grandview, ending 20 minutes ago. The timeline was perfect. Too perfect. Over the next week, I started paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. Lauren's cash-only policy, which she'd explained as better budgeting, suddenly seemed less innocent. Her phone, locked tighter than Fort Knox, never left her sight. She'd even started taking Max to the grocery store, claiming he needed socialization. The dog was socializing all right, just not where I thought. Thursday arrived like a test I hadn't studied for. Lauren announced another late client meeting, kissed me goodbye, and loaded Max into her silver Honda. I waited 15 minutes, then opened the app. The blue dot moved through downtown traffic, past Lauren's office building, straight to the Grandview Hotel. It stopped on the 7th floor at 7:47 p.m. My hands shook as I screenshot the location. Room 714. The number burned into my phone screen like a neon sign advertising my stupidity. I called her office. The receptionist, Brenda, answered on the second ring. "Hi, Brenda, it's Soren. Is Lauren still in her meeting?" "Meeting? She left around 5:30, said she had personal errands. Want me to leave a message?" The words hit like a physical blow. "No message. Thanks." I sat in my kitchen, staring at the GPS dot that hadn't moved in 2 hours. Max was probably curled up on some hotel bed while my wife did God knows what with God knows who. The loyal dog I'd rescued from a shelter 3 years ago had become an unwitting witness to her betrayal. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. "Meeting running super late. Don't wait up. Love you." I screenshot that too. Time-stamped 9:23 p.m. The GPS showed Max still motionless on the 7th floor. At 11:15 p.m., the blue dot finally moved. It traced a path through downtown, past 3 late-night restaurants Lauren could have used as cover stories, straight home. She walked through our front door at 11:43, Max padding beside her, tail wagging like nothing had happened. "How'd the meeting go?" I asked from the couch, laptop open, pretending to work. "Productive. Finally got Morrison to approve the winter campaign." She scratched Max behind the ears. This guy was such a good boy, waited in the car like a champion. Waited in the car. The lie was so casual, so practiced, I almost admired its simplicity. Almost. "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." She smiled and headed upstairs. Max looked at me for a moment, those innocent brown eyes holding secrets he couldn't share. Then he followed her, his collar's tiny LED blinking once before disappearing around the corner. I opened the app one more time. The location history was crystal clear. 4 hours at the Grandview Hotel, room 714. Not a single minute in any parking lot. My marriage was falling apart, and my dog was the only witness I had. Maya Rodriguez, my closest friend and fellow IT specialist, listened to my story over coffee at our usual downtown spot. She'd known Lauren almost as long as I had, helped plan our wedding, even pet-sat Max when we went to Cancun for our anniversary. Her reaction was exactly what I expected. "You're sure about the GPS accuracy?" Maya stirred her latte, her dark eyes serious. "Those apps can be off by 50 feet sometimes." I tested it, took Max to 3 different locations yesterday, tracked him in real time. The app was accurate within 10 feet every time. I showed her my phone screen. "Look at this pattern." Maya studied the location history I'd compiled. Tuesday, Thursday, like clockwork. She looked up. "Who do you think she's meeting?" "That's what I need to figure out. She's locked down everything. Phone, laptop, even her car's navigation history gets cleared weekly, but she can't erase Max's GPS trail." "What about her work? Any new colleagues, clients, business trips that don't add up?" I'd been thinking about that. "She's been working on this hotel chain account for 6 months. The Morrison Group. They own the Grandview, plus 4 other properties in Texas. She's always talking about Greg Morrison, the owner's son who handles marketing partnerships." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Greg Morrison. Sounds like a trust fund baby with too much time on his hands. She mentions him a lot. Greg thinks this. Greg suggested that. Claims he's just professional, but..." I trailed off, remembering Lauren's tone when she talked about him. Animated, excited, the way she used to talk about me. "Want me to do some digging? I can run a background check, see what Mr. Morrison's story is." I nodded. "Anything you can find. I need to know who I'm dealing with before I make my next move." Maya pulled out her laptop. "Give me his full name and the company info. I'll have something by tomorrow." That evening, Lauren announced another late meeting. Same routine. Kiss goodbye, Max loaded into the car, promises of a productive night. I waited for the familiar ping from the GPS app. This time, I decided to follow. I'd never tailed anyone before, but years of action movies provided a basic education. Stay back. Keep other cars between us. Don't be obvious. Lauren's Honda was easy to track in evening traffic, and she drove like someone with a clear destination and no reason to check for surveillance. She parked in the Grandview's valet area. I watched from across the street as she walked into the lobby, Max on his leash, moving with the confidence of someone who belonged there. The valet knew her, nodded like she was a regular guest. My phone showed the GPS dot entering the building. 5 minutes later, it stopped moving on the 7th floor. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching the hotel entrance, feeling like a private investigator in a bad movie. Other guests came and went. Business travelers, couples, families with kids. Normal people living normal lives while mine crumbled behind the windows of room 714. At 10:30, Lauren emerged alone. No Max. She walked to her car with the casual stride of someone finishing routine errands, not someone who'd just spent 3 hours in a hotel room with another man and my dog. The GPS dot was still on the 7th floor. I waited another hour before the dot moved again. Lauren returned, collected Max from the lobby, and drove home. When she walked through our door at midnight, she had the same story ready. Morrison's being impossible about the spring campaign made me review every detail twice. She looked tired, but satisfied. At least it's finally approved. That's great. Where's Max been during all these meetings? Oh, Greg's assistant loves dogs. She keeps him in the conference room, spoils him rotten. Lauren scratched Max's ears. Don't you, buddy? Max wagged his tail, oblivious to the lies being told in his name. The GPS app on my phone showed his real location history. 4 straight hours in room 714, not a single minute in any conference room. I was getting tired of being lied to, but I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed more information, more evidence, more leverage. Lauren had been planning this carefully, covering her tracks with professional precision. If I was going to end this, I needed to be just as careful. Maya called the next morning with her research results. Greg Morrison, 38, divorced 2 years ago, owns a downtown condo and drives a black BMW. His ex-wife filed for emotional distress in the divorce, settled out of court. No kids, no criminal record, but get this. He's been named in 2 other divorce proceedings as a contributing factor. He's a serial homewrecker? Looks that way. The Morrison Group has a policy against employees dating clients, which technically makes Lauren a client since her firm represents them. If this got out, both their careers would take a hit. Perfect. Lauren wasn't just cheating, she was risking her professional reputation for this guy. That gave me options. There's something else, Maya continued. I checked the hotel records. Room 714 has been booked under a corporate account every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. Guess whose company credit card is paying for it? The Morrison Group. Bingo. Your wife's boyfriend is using company money to fund their affair. That's the kind of thing that gets people fired. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Maya, you're brilliant. I know. So what's your next move? I looked at Max, sleeping peacefully by my feet, his GPS collar blinking softly. I'm going to let them think they're getting away with it a little longer, build up more evidence. Then I'm going to introduce myself to Greg Morrison in person. Be careful, Soren. Guys like him don't like being exposed. Don't worry, I'm not planning to do anything stupid, but I am planning to make sure everyone knows exactly who Greg Morrison really is. The GPS dot on my phone pulsed steadily. Room 714, Thursday night, right on schedule. It was time to change the game. I spent the weekend preparing, downloaded 3 months of GPS data from Max's collar, cross-referenced it with Lauren's claimed work schedule, and compiled a timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Every lie, every fake meeting, every night she'd kissed me goodbye and driven straight to Greg Morrison's arms. Maya helped me create a presentation, not the corporate kind I usually built for clients, but something more personal. Screenshots, maps, timestamps, even photos I'd taken of Lauren entering the Grand View. Everything organized, documented, irrefutable. You sure you want to do this? Maya asked, reviewing the final version. Once you show her this, there's no going back. She made that choice when she started taking my dog to her affair. I saved the file to a thumb drive. I'm just making sure she understands the consequences. Monday night, Lauren announced another late meeting. Same script, same casual lies. I watched her load Max into the Honda, kiss me goodbye, promise to be home by 11. The routine was so established it felt like performance art. This time I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I knew exactly where she was going. At 9 p.m. I drove to the Grandview Hotel. The lobby was elegant in that generic luxury way, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, the kind of place that charged $300 a night for the privilege of thread counts and room service. I approached the front desk with the confidence of someone who belonged there. I'm here to see my wife in room 714, I told the clerk, a young woman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced smile. Name? Soren Valden. She's expecting me. The clerk checked her computer. I show the room registered under Morrison Group corporate account. Would you like me to call up? That's okay. I'll surprise her. The elevator ride to the 7th floor felt like the longest minute of my life. I'd rehearsed this moment dozens of times, but standing outside room 714 with my hand raised to knock, I realized no amount of preparation could ready me for what came next. I knocked twice, firm, confident, the knock of someone who had every right to be there. Footsteps, a pause, the security chain rattling. The door opened 6 inches, revealing Greg Morrison's face. He was exactly what I'd expected. Handsome in that generic way wealthy men often are, with the kind of confident expression that comes from never being told no. His expression shifted from confusion to recognition to panic in about 3 seconds. "You must be Soren." His voice was steady, but I caught the slight tremor underneath. "And you must be Greg. Mind if I come in? I think we need to talk." He glanced back into the room, probably at Lauren, then made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He opened the door. The room was exactly what I'd imagined. King bed, city view, the kind of place Lauren had always wanted to stay, but we'd never been able to afford. She was sitting on the edge of the bed in a hotel bathrobe, her face white with shock. Max was curled up on the carpet beside her, his tail wagging when he saw me. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, my voice calm as glass. "How's the Morrison account going?" Lauren opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. For someone who made her living crafting marketing messages, she seemed remarkably at a loss for words. Greg stepped between us, trying to take control of the situation. "Look, Soren, this isn't what you think." "Really? Because what I think is that my wife has been meeting you in this room every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months, using our dog's GPS collar to provide me with a detailed record of every single visit." I pulled out my phone, opened the app. "Want to see the data?" The room went silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and Max's contented panting. Lauren stared at the GPS display like it was a snake about to strike. "You've been tracking me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I've been tracking Max. You just happened to take him everywhere, including here." I showed them both the screen. 3 months of location data. Every lie, every fake meeting, every night you kissed me goodbye and came straight to room 714. Greg tried to salvage the situation. "This is between you and Lauren. I think you should leave." "I don't think so. See, Greg, you've been using company money to pay for this room. Corporate credit card, business account, probably writing it off as client entertainment. That's the kind of thing the Morrison Group's board of directors might find interesting." His confident expression cracked. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Maya Rodriguez, my friend in IT, she's very good at finding information. Did you know you've been named in 2 other divorce proceedings? Apparently you have a pattern of targeting married women. I wonder what your ex-wife would say about that." Lauren finally found her voice. "Soren, please let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 3 months? That you've been using our dog as cover for your affair? That you've been risking both our reputations for this guy?" I gestured at Greg, who was now looking decidedly less confident. "It's not what you think," she said, the words tumbling out. "It just happened. We never meant for it to go this far." But it did go this far, and now we're going to discuss what happens next. I sat down in the room's single chair, making myself comfortable. Max trotted over and sat beside me, his loyalty as uncomplicated as ever. Lauren and Greg remained standing, looking like defendants waiting for a verdict. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Lauren, you're going to come home with me tonight. We're going to have a very long conversation about our marriage and what you want to do with it. Greg, you're going to find a new marketing firm to handle the Morrison Group's account, because this professional relationship is over." "You can't dictate who we work with," Greg said, but the fight was gone out of his voice. "Actually, I can. Because if Lauren's firm continues working with your company, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly how you conduct business. Your board of directors, your ex-wife's attorney, maybe even the local business journal. They love stories about corporate executives who can't keep their personal and professional lives separate." Lauren looked at Greg, then at me, then at Max, who was wagging his tail like this was all a wonderful game. "Soren, save it for home," I said, standing up. "We'll have plenty of time to talk." I clipped Max's leash to his collar, the GPS unit blinking softly in the hotel room's artificial light. "Come on, buddy. Time to go home." As we walked toward the door, I turned back to Greg one last time. "Oh, and Greg, Next time you want to steal someone's wife, make sure they don't have a dog with a GPS collar. Technology's amazing these days. The elevator doors closed on his stunned expression, leaving Lauren and me alone for the ride down to the lobby. She stared at the floor numbers, tears streaming down her face, while Max sat between us like a furry Switzerland. "How long have you known?" she asked as we reached the ground floor. 3 weeks of suspicion, 1 week of certainty, 3 days of planning. The elevator doors opened. "But I've known you were lying for 3 months. I just didn't know what about." We walked through the lobby in silence, past the elegant furniture and crystal chandeliers, past the front desk clerk who watched us with professional discretion. Max trotted between us, happy to be going home, oblivious to the fact that home would never be the same again. In the parking garage, Lauren finally broke down completely. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Soren. I never meant for this to happen." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with 5 years ago. But she was also a stranger, someone capable of deceptions I'd never imagined. "I know you're sorry," I said. "The question is what you're sorry about. Are you sorry you had the affair, or are you sorry you got caught?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I loaded Max into my car and drove home alone, leaving Lauren to follow in her Honda. The GPS app on my phone showed 2 dots now, Max beside me and Lauren's phone trailing a quarter-mile behind. For the first time in months, I knew exactly where my wife was. It felt like the coldest victory in the world. The house felt different when we walked through the front door. Same furniture, same pictures on the walls, same everything, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Max sensed it too. Instead of his usual enthusiastic greeting routine, he went straight to his bed and curled up, watching us with those intelligent brown eyes. Lauren sat on our couch, still in the clothes she'd worn to meet Greg, makeup smeared from crying in the hotel room. I sat across from her in my reading chair, the same spot where I'd first noticed the GPS anomaly 3 weeks ago. The laptop on my side table still showed Max's location history, months of dots marking every lie she'd told. "How long?" I asked. 4 months. Her voice was barely audible. "It started at a client dinner. Greg was charming, funny, and I was feeling ignored at home. You were always working, always distracted. Don't." I cut her off. "Don't make this about me. I may not have been perfect, but I never cheated." She nodded, tears starting again. "You're right. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm just trying to explain how it started. I don't care how it started. I care about the lies. 3 months of looking me in the eye and lying about where you were, what you were doing, who you were with. Taking our dog to your affair like he was some kind of alibi." Lauren looked at Max, who was still watching us from his bed. "I never thought about the GPS collar. I needed something normal, something that felt like the life I was supposed to be living. Taking Max made it feel less like cheating and more like..." "Like what?" "Like I was just walking the dog." She laughed bitterly. "How stupid is that?" Pretty stupid, but I didn't say it. The GPS data had given me everything I needed to know about her deception. What I needed now was to understand what came next. "Do you love him?" The question hung in the air for a long moment. Lauren stared at her hands, twisting her wedding ring around her finger, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times but never really noticed until now. "I thought I did. But tonight, when you walked into that room, when I saw the look on your face..." She met my eyes. "I realized I was just in love with the excitement, the secrecy, the feeling of being wanted by someone new. And now? Now I feel like an idiot. Greg barely looked at me after you left. Just kept talking about damage control and protecting his reputation. I don't think he ever cared about me at all." That matched what Maya had found in her research. Greg Morrison collected married women like trophies, then discarded them when things got complicated. Lauren had just learned what his ex-wife and the other divorce proceedings had already established. "What do you want to do about us?" I asked. "I want to fix this. I want to earn your trust back. I want to make this marriage work." She leaned forward, desperate. "I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway." I'd been dreading this moment. Part of me wanted to say yes, to pretend the last 4 months hadn't happened, to go back to our comfortable routine, but I couldn't unsee what I'd seen, couldn't unknow what I now knew about the woman I'd married. "I need time," I said finally. "Time to think, time to figure out if I can ever trust you again. Time to decide if I want to try." "How much time?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe months, and there would be conditions." "Anything." "You quit the Morrison Group account immediately. Find a reason, any reason, but you never work with Greg again. You give me complete access to your phone, your computer, your car's navigation system. No more passwords, no more secrets. And you find a therapist, not couples therapy, individual therapy, to figure out why you thought this was acceptable." Lauren nodded eagerly. "Yes, all of that. Whatever you need. And you move into the guest room. If we're going to try to rebuild this marriage, we're starting from scratch. You'll have to earn back every piece of trust you destroyed." "I understand." I looked at Max, who had fallen asleep during our conversation, his GPS collar blinking softly in the dim light. The device that had exposed Lauren's betrayal would now become a symbol of the surveillance our marriage would require if it was going to survive. "One more thing," I said. "If I find out you're lying to me about anything at all, this is over. No second chances, no explanations, no forgiveness. I'll file for divorce and make sure everyone knows exactly why." "You won't have to. I promise." Promises from Lauren didn't mean much anymore, but I nodded anyway. "We'll see." The next morning, I called Maya to update her on the confrontation. She listened to the whole story, occasionally making impressed noises at the more dramatic moments. "So she's moving to the guest room and giving up all her privacy?" Maya asked when I finished. "That's what she agreed to. Whether she'll actually follow through is another question." "And you're really going to try to make it work?" I'd been asking myself the same question all night. "I don't know. Maybe. The marriage we had is over. That ended the first time she walked into room 714. But maybe we can build something new, something honest. Or maybe you're just postponing the inevitable." "Maybe. But I need to know I tried everything before I walk away. If this fails, I want it to be because reconciliation was impossible, not because I gave up too easily." Maya was quiet for a moment. "What about Greg Morrison?" I smiled grimly. "What about him? You're not going to expose him, ruin his career, make him pay for what he did?" "I don't need to. Greg Morrison is a coward who preys on married women and runs when things get complicated. Men like that destroy themselves eventually. I just need to make sure he stays away from Lauren." "And if he doesn't?" "Then I'll remind him that I have 3 months of evidence showing him using company money to fund an affair with a client. The Morrison Group's board of directors would find that very interesting." Maya laughed. "You're scarier than I thought, Soren." "I'm not scary. I'm just tired of being lied to." That evening, Lauren came home from work with a resignation letter from the Morrison Group account. She told her boss that she had a conflict of interest that made it impossible to continue the professional relationship. It was vague enough to avoid scandal, but specific enough to ensure she'd never have to work with Greg again. "He tried to call me 4 times today," she said, handing me her phone. "I didn't answer." I scrolled through the missed calls, all from Greg's number. "What did you tell your boss about why you can't work the account anymore?" "That I'd developed personal feelings that compromised my professional judgment. She assumed I meant romantic feelings for the client and agreed it was best to reassign the account." "Good. That's the truth without being the whole truth." Lauren nodded. I also made an appointment with a therapist. Dr. Sarah Chen. She specializes in infidelity and relationship repair. First session is Thursday. Thursday. The same day, Lauren used to meet Greg at the Grandview Hotel. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. What about your phone and computer passwords? She handed me a piece of paper with all her login information. Everything's there. You can check whatever you want, whenever you want. I pocketed the paper without looking at it. The passwords weren't really about surveillance. They were about Lauren's willingness to give up the privacy she'd used to hide her affair. The fact that she'd written them down without hesitation was more important than the actual access they provided. Thank you, I said. For what? For not making this harder than it has to be. For not trying to minimize what you did or blame me for your choices. For accepting that you destroyed something precious and that rebuilding it will take time. Lauren's eyes filled with tears again. I love you, Soren. I know I have no right to say that after what I did, but I need you to know it's true. I love you too, I said, and meant it. But love isn't enough anymore. We need trust, and that's going to take work. She nodded and headed upstairs to move her things to the guest room. Max followed her, then came back to me, then followed her again, confused by the disruption to his routine. Eventually, he settled on staying with me, perhaps sensing that I was the more reliable source of stability in his suddenly complicated world. I opened the GPS app on my phone and watched the blue dot that represented Max's location. Home, where it belonged, where we all belonged, if we could figure out how to make it work. The dot pulsed steadily, a digital heartbeat in the darkness, marking the spot where my marriage would either heal or finally end. 3 months later, Lauren and I sat in Dr. Chen's office for our first joint session. Lauren had been seeing the therapist individually since the night I confronted her at the hotel, working through the issues that had led to her affair. I'd been skeptical at first, but the changes in her behavior had been gradual and genuine. How are you both feeling about the progress you've made? Dr. Chen asked, her voice professionally warm. Lauren looked at me before answering. Better. Not perfect, but better. I understand now that the affair wasn't about problems in our marriage. It was about problems in me. My need for validation, my fear of commitment, my tendency to run away when things got difficult instead of working through them. I nodded. The trust is coming back slowly. Lauren's been completely transparent about everything, where she goes, who she talks to, what she's doing. She even sends me photos when she's out with friends, just so I know she's where she says she is. And how does that feel, Lauren? Having your privacy monitored? Necessary, Lauren said without hesitation. I destroyed Soren's ability to trust me. If I want it back, I have to prove I'm trustworthy. The monitoring isn't permanent. It's just until we both feel secure again. Dr. Chen made a note. What about intimacy, physical and emotional? We'd been taking things slowly. Lauren had moved back into our bedroom 2 weeks ago, but we were rebuilding our physical relationship as carefully as our emotional one. No rushing, no pressure, no pretending things were back to normal when they weren't. We're getting there, I said. It's different than before, but maybe that's good. We're more honest now, more intentional about spending time together. I appreciate him more, Lauren added. I know that sounds terrible considering what I put him through, but it's true. I took our marriage for granted before. I won't make that mistake again. After the session, we walked to our cars in the parking lot. Lauren was driving her own car again. I'd stopped tracking her movements 2 weeks ago when I realized I was checking the GPS app out of habit rather than necessity. Want to grab dinner? She asked. That new Italian place downtown? Can't tonight. Maya's birthday party, remember? You're welcome to come if you want. Lauren shook her head. I think Maya still wants to punch me in the face. Maybe next time. Maya had been less forgiving than I was about Lauren's affair. She'd been polite during the few times they'd interacted, but the easy friendship they'd once shared was probably gone forever. Some consequences couldn't be undone, only accepted. "I'll see you at home," Lauren said, kissing me goodbye. It was a quick, casual kiss, but it felt real in a way our kisses hadn't for months before the affair. Maya's party was at her apartment, a small gathering of our mutual friends from work and college. I'd been dreading the questions about Lauren's absence, but Maya had apparently briefed everyone beforehand. No one asked where my wife was or why she wasn't there. "How are things going?" Maya asked during a quiet moment on her balcony. "Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped." I sipped my beer, watching traffic move through downtown Houston. "Some days I think we're going to make it. Other days I wonder if I'm just postponing the inevitable." "What does your gut tell you?" "That Lauren is genuinely sorry and genuinely committed to changing, but also that she's capable of deception I never imagined. How do you trust someone after learning they can lie to your face for months?" Maya nodded. "Have you heard anything about Greg Morrison?" I smiled grimly. "Funny you should ask. His ex-wife's attorney contacted me last week. Apparently she's reopening their divorce settlement. Claims Greg hid assets and lied about his income during their proceedings. She wanted to know if I had any information that might be relevant." "Did you?" I gave her Maya Rodriguez's contact information and suggested she might want to look into Greg's pattern of using company resources for personal relationships. Purely as a concerned citizen, of course. Maya laughed. "You're evil. I like it." "I'm not evil. I'm just making sure Greg faces consequences for his choices, the same way Lauren and I are facing consequences for ours." "What kind of consequences is he looking at?" "His ex-wife is seeking additional alimony based on hidden assets. The Morrison Group is conducting an internal audit of his expense accounts, and apparently 2 other women have come forward with similar stories about affairs funded by company money. Greg's having a very bad month." "Good. Guys like him need to learn that actions have consequences." I nodded, thinking about the GPS app on my phone that I rarely opened anymore. Max's blue dot pulsed steadily at home, where Lauren was probably grading papers or watching Netflix. Normal, domestic, honest activities that I no longer took for granted. "What about you and Lauren long term?" Maya asked. "Think you'll make it?" "I think we're building something new. Not the marriage we had before, that's gone forever, but maybe something better. More honest, more intentional, more aware of how precious trust really is. And if it doesn't work, then at least we'll know we tried everything, that we gave it our best shot before walking away." Maya raised her beer bottle. "To second chances and GPS-enabled dogs." I clinked my bottle against hers. "To Max, the best wingman a husband could ask for." When I got home that night, Lauren was asleep in our bed, Max curled up on his blanket beside her. The GPS collar blinked softly in the darkness, a tiny technological lighthouse marking the spot where my family slept safely. I checked the app one last time before putting my phone away. The blue dot pulsed steadily at home coordinates, exactly where it belonged, where we all belonged, if we could keep working at it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to rebuild trust, new chances to prove that love and forgiveness and second chances could triumph over betrayal and lies. It wouldn't be easy, but the best things in life never were. Max opened one sleepy eye as I settled into bed, his tail wagging briefly before he drifted back to sleep. Even in his dreams, he was keeping watch over us, the loyal guardian whose GPS collar had saved my marriage by first revealing how broken it really was. The app on my phone went dark, but the love it had helped preserve continued burning bright, steady as a heartbeat.